Okay, welcome back. So that is what we'll be focusing on today, but just a little bit of a background because, I mean, this has been, we all know that we've been grappling with sorting out the challenges facing the health sector for years now. As a matter of fact, from 2000 to 2020.
That's 1 year into this Fourth
Exactly.
Republic.
I mean, health workers had gone on nationwide strike, as a matter of fact, for at least 264 days. And, you know, that's about roughly 9 months, you know, put together. You know the implication of that. Almost a year. That is huge for any sector, huge for any health sector in the world to deal with. And then this year, from the 2nd of August up until the 4th of October, about 63 days, the resident doctors tried to make their point as to why and what they think should happen.
Look at the 2015 process where the strike by the same resident doctors crippled the University College Hospital in Ibadan for 108 days. That's more than 3 months.
Yeah, and you know, it doesn't make it any easier when you see a review of industrial actions between April 2016 and April 2017, and that showed that there were at least 17 across the country, out of which 6 were primary within the healthcare system. How we talk about the primary healthcare sector, we need to improve all of that, but that's what you see.
It's that review. I mean, I don't even know where to begin, but the next one will probably give us a pointer to, you know, even where we are now. I'm wondering how we're going to transit.
Yeah, but if you come back to what the doctors are demanding, demands by the NARD, you see, provisions of the PPEs, provision of group life insurance for doctors and other healthcare workers, and payment of death-in-service benefit to the next of kin beneficiaries.
Universal implementation of the Medical Residency Training Act in all federal and state hospitals, which incidentally, the Federal Ministry of Health is arguing it's a privilege and not a right.
Yeah, and then payment of outstanding 2014, 2015, and 2016 arrears.
Should that even be an issue? Implementation of the payment of the special hazard and inducement allowance.
Yep.
Payment of new rate of hazard allowance. Payment of all old arrears of the consequential adjustment of the national minimum wage to her members, and implementation of such in states' tertiary health institutions, and of course the domestication of the Residency Training Act by state governments. While even the federal government is still struggling, so to speak, to deal with that one, the states are yet to domesticate. These demands are genuine, and the fact that one can even say, and it's not only the NARD that's gone on strike over the past 20, 21 years, the NMA has also gone on strike, you know, a number of times, and one wonders, is there an end in sight? I cannot, for the life of me, imagine where we'll be looking at this. Unfortunately, we are. I will always cast our minds back to the past. In the 80s, into the 90s, we had a situation where the term brain drain became prominent. And I'm wondering, there's something that you have often said on this program, Chairman. Is it that we don't learn from the past, learn from the mistakes that we have made, and then, you know, move forward from there, lay pipes, lay infrastructure, lay structures to ensure that we do not repeat our mistakes?
Well, we've got gentlemen who should know. They've been in the thick of things when it has to do with the health sector. On this particular strike, we've got Dr. Ishaya Gudia, who is the president of the resident doctors, and just right beside him is Honorable Tanko Yusuf Sununu, Chairman House Committee on Health Services. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chamberlain.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so let's start with you, Dr. Gudia. Operative words there was, yes, you suspended the strike, and then you're going to be revisiting the whole scenario in six weeks or 6 months? Okay, 6 weeks. Now, tell us, what is the current position now? So does that then mean that after that grace period, is it a grace period? Why is it not complete call off of the strike? Because you listed how they've started attending to some of those things with which, you know, the NOC is satisfied with.
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain, again for good morning, our viewers and listeners. The issues that led to the strike are all known as, just as you have highlighted them in your prelude. The problem we had when we signed the MOU in April was the lack of implementation from the side of the government, and that led us to resume back the strike in 2nd of August. And the posture then that was adopted by the government was what actually prolonged the strike, so to say, because there was no immediate intervention aside from the interaction we had with the Honorable Tanko Sununu at the National Assembly, which we could not agree on certain terms. And the matter was taken to court, and we couldn't actually have enough interface with the government with sincerity and open heart. But we, after our inauguration as the new executive, we came back to see how we can start interfacing and following through those issues. And that we discovered that there was change in posture, and some of those things that the government had said they would not pay because we were on strike action. We saw that they actually started implementing them, and we felt this was a good time for us to revert back to NEC and discuss with them so that we can see if we can chart a way forward. So during the discussion, a lot of the issues were raised and were critically appraised, and NEC decided by a simple majority vote to suspend the strike and give government 6 weeks to see those issues that were stalemated due to the ongoing strike, to see if those issues can be implemented.
Even though many just wish it was 6 months. But, you know, so tell us, the NARD talked about them wanting work done, paid for, which had not been paid for. And then government was also in court saying, well, no work, no pay. So could you clarify those positions for us? So is it that the reason for which you went on strike particularly has to do with paying for work done, and the position, the current position on the no work, no pay scenario?
Well, that was one of the unfair position and the posture that was adopted by the government that led to the prolongation of this strike. But however, just as I said, we have started interfacing, and the tone have started changing. And when we realized that the tone was changing and there was also some commitment being made, we felt it was a good ground that we can actually continue the negotiation, or rather continue the interface in that line, with the good faith that the government is trying to extend to us and our members. And we believe that that will continue. So when we saw the change in posture, we believe that we can follow it through, and the remaining issues as the work can be sorted out.
Honorable Sununu, it's been an arduous walk and work for you as well. I don't even know how to address you now, as a medical doctor that you are, or as a government official. It must be a very difficult one. But right now, this is where we are. What are your hopes in ensuring that this 6 weeks is 6 weeks indeed? Because a promise that couldn't be fulfilled within over 3 months, they now have, the governor has 6 weeks.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Let me start by thanking the immediate past leadership of Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, because they have provided us with the ample opportunity to interact with them, to solve issues and address the reason for the strike, even though at certain period we succeeded, but at certain times we also could not agree. And then also to congratulate the incoming new executive of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Well, the president has already said that they have seen a posture. Immediately he was inaugurated, he came to my office with his ESCO. We had a discussion, and we've agreed that constructive engagement and regaining back lost trust should be our yardstick. Once we engage constructively and we begin to regain back our trust, hope will increase, and then issues will be addressed, and we can look at things objectively so that we can address them. My hope is that in every situation you find yourself, you must learn a lesson. In the last 2 months plus, we have learned a lot of lessons. First of all, the access to healthcare is actually nearly below average. The situation in the country in terms of people going about to do their normal duties and be assured that whenever they have the need to go to see a doctor, they can see. And then to make matter worse, people are also using out of pocket to sustain their health care in a situation whereby the economic, especially the inflation, is on the higher side. So this is this thing. And also, we all agree that nobody can do it in isolation. So we have learned that everybody must change his posture, the government side and also the association side. My hope is that the grace we have now for the 6 weeks we are having, it's not going to be like the previous grace we have been having, whereby we have a short period of time and people will go back to sleep until it is 5 or 6 days to end of the grace we have. We now begin to dust papers and come to address issues. If you realize now, right from the word go, the implementation has started. And I have a lot of discussion with many stakeholders in the government part they are now ready to, because even at that time, the government part has been asking for a grace that please suspend your strike. Let us have an atmosphere under which we are not under any pressure so that we can work and fast track the movement. And I assure you, the National Assembly, including both the Senate and the House of Representatives, especially Mr. Speaker, are committed to seeing that this grace of 6 weeks is beneficial to Nigeria. More or less, to crown it up, the hope that Mr. President has promised, call up the strike, go back to negotiation, I will pay you even what preceded my regime. It's a very comforting, and it gives us a lot of hope. Because Mr. President has promised so many issues and has addressed them. First of all, the issue of railway workers was addressed. The issue of night workers also was addressed. The issue of pensioners that used litter around the parade ground. You cannot see them there because all their issues are addressed. So I don't think this one, with the commitment given and assurance given by Mr. President, will be a different case. Definitely, in the next 6 weeks, we should be able to address this issue that led to this strike. And not only this one, even the other issues. We are trying to have a holistic approach. Just a few days ago, last week, I had engagement with leadership of Joint Health Sector Union in the National Assembly so that we can see issues are taken together and then addressed holistically, rather than taking them in bits that will result in another nationwide strike. My hope is that in the next 6 weeks, it will be a pass that one day we can remember that there was a period that we had a strike for 2 months in the health system in Nigeria. And definitely the result that is we are resolving not to witness such a situation again in the country.
Well, Honorable, I just want to find out from you if indeed the reasons for the delay have been addressed. For instance, one of the understandings that one would have naturally in this kind of scenario is that it's not only the health ministry, the Federal Ministry of Health, that is involved in this. The Federal Ministry of Finance is involved, and a number of other, ministries, departments, and agencies, in order to ensure that the promise of Mr. President is executed to the letter. The President is not the one that is going to do the transfer, nor is he the one that is going to sign the checks. He's only going to give an approval. So have the systems that caused the delay for more than 3 months that has necessitated this prolonged strike, has that system been even investigated? What exactly happened that was responsible for the delay?
Well, it has been investigated, and we are putting a lot of effort to address it. You see, first of all, on the part of the union, generally, there is loss of trust. And now we are beginning through our actions that we are going to do in the next few days to restore their trust. Another issue is the fact that people don't wake up to address issues. Like, for example, now if you have a notice, nobody will work until a few days to our time. Now with involvement of Mr. President, the Vice President, and virtually every stakeholder, now people will know that they are on track and they can be held responsible for their inactions or actions. That's a very good one. Then thirdly, if you look at the issue we had, there was no clear set system. If you take, for example, the Medical Residency Training Fund, the act that established the medical residency came up with a fund, but no organization was given the responsibility to prepare the budgetary implication of the total cost. The ministry were thinking is going to be the hospital were thinking is National Postgraduate College, and the National Postgraduate College was thinking it was the ministry. But during this strike period, we have agreed that responsibility as enshrined in the act should be given to National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. And as at now, you will find the other delay that we had was that we have multiple lists with so many doubtful additions. So when the issue was moved to National Postgraduate Medical College, we have saddled them with the responsibility of clearing and ensuring that we have an authentic list, because the Act also mandated them to have online data for all residents in the country. And that's why today we are proud to say that we have a clean list and payments commences. So that we have addressed responsibility. And now if you also look at the issue of labor, they had several meetings, and we have addressed those issues. If you, we have been addressing them, and we are trying to see how we can follow the memorandum of understanding as reached by both parties, so that we as the National Assembly, that we are charged with responsibility of oversight action, we can track them. If you ask, definitely it's not this thing. I've been several times at the Federal Ministry of Health to have a chat with the minister, not only staying in my office to invite the ministry. I go there personally. I was at the Ministry of Labor. I had several engagements with the Office of the Head of Service, Chairman of Committee of CMD. I almost communicate almost nearly every 24 hours, so as to see how we can fast track. And every one of us realized that, look, leadership is a responsibility and is accountable. And therefore, we can be held responsible for the loss of life. And nobody will want to repeat that. And I'm sure this is the first time that the president has come out to say his mind, and he has said it. And I'm sure definitely will be motivated by that. And not only that, you know that it's not only National Assembly. There are many security in and out that are also tracking the movement, who are also reporting to Mr. President, and definitely they will be reporting the progress of what is happening. And the President, being a listening leader, definitely will act to ensure that things are fast-tracked. Nobody will like a Nigerian to be suffering due to lack of access to health. This is not acceptable. We are in a world of universal health coverage, and which means that everybody should have access to basic minimum package without necessarily pushing him to economic hardship. And this is the goal of every government, to ensure welfare and security of property. And that part of welfare has to address health issues. And that's why even the government is considering health as a welfare package. And you don't expect profit. Therefore, if we want people to benefit, we must realize that and act fast.
Well, those are clear systemic loopholes that you've identified there. But are those what you meant when you said that there are certain actions and steps that need to be taken so that they can regain the trust of the people. Is that what you meant?
Yes, that's what I mean. If you are engaging me and you say you lack trust, because previously I have promises you severally and I failed. Now, for you to trust me again, to gain back the trust, so that we can work at level, we must work fast to ensure that the timeline and track they are marking, we have met the timeline, or we can even do things before the period they are expecting it to happen. Once you have that, even if they give you a notice and say, look, go, we are going to do it, we'll address it. Let me tell you, when the first time, when the trust was there, the NARD in 2019 are supposed to have their meeting in Bayelsa to declare a nationwide strike. And instantly in the office of Mr. Speaker, this was brought up, called the NARD. And I immediately called the then President, Dr. Olakpa, that please, this your strike, we want you to give us a grace of 6 weeks so that we can ensure that something is done. They haven't even had the meeting. Instantly, he said, Honorable Sununu, we are giving you that grace. And the strike could not hold. And within that period they gave us, we were able to address some of the issues there were as their basic minimum demand at that time, including the operationalization of the Medical Residency Training Fund. And that was the time that the Medical Residency Training Fund was even included in the budget, courtesy of Mr. Speaker. So, but gradually, all of a sudden, we didn't know how we really got to where we are. Promises are not kept. And the issue which I've mentioned, I will repeat it now, and even the government side is learning its lesson. Never you go and append a signature and commit the government without you studying the basic resources that government will use in paying such assent that you are going to represent. Because at times, government team will sign an MOU with association without taking stock of the resources. And then when it comes to implementation, you find it becomes difficult because the resources are not there. And that's why you see, even right now, on the issue of hazard allowances, government team is very, very careful. They are studying situation so that they can agree with unions and associations on whenever agreed, government will be able to implement it without causing delay so that it cannot lead to another strike. And that is the way to go. Make your in-house study, know what you can afford, assent what you can afford. If you sign what you cannot afford, call back the union and association. Look, in anticipation of this, the dollar is so, now it is there. So what we have agreed before, as at now, definitely we cannot implement it. Can we go back to the negotiation table? Don't allow the association to remind you that, look, we have 3 or 4 more weeks to go into strike. Or you delay until there is strike, now you sign, you append your signature, not at room, in a disadvantaged position. So we must always be proactive, and that's what the House is championing. Proactiveness in decision-making, proactiveness in implementation. And that's why you see at any time before you say, like the Jesu and other issues, we used to invite them even before, so that we prevent an abrupt strike. And you know that definitely history will reckon with Mr. Speaker that this National Assembly has abated strike more than 10 times in the history of in this 9th Assembly. And it is a wonderful action. But we don't want to be abating always. Let us stop thinking of what will even lead to strike, but being proactive to address issues.
All right, Dr. Godea, what are the outstanding issues for you?
Well, the outstanding issues that are yet to be attended to are the, well, for the federal government side, the medical residency training fund have not been fully paid, and the arrears for the remaining arrears for the 2020 that was paid and not paid to some of our members have not also been paid. So we will still continue on that. Then this death in service benefit have not also been paid to the deceased or the next of kin of our deceased colleague. That one is still pending. The hazard allowance, though still under negotiation, have not been fully agreed upon by the unions, that's Joint Health Sector and our own union being led by the Nigerian Medical Association. So it's still under discussion. The issue of the 2014, 2015, and 2016 salary shortfall areas have also not been conclusively dealt with. So the issue of COVID-19 inducement areas that some of our members were not paid is still hanging. The issue of the state issue, they haven't domesticated the Medical Residency Act yet, and most of the states have not paid our member medical residency training fund. So, but however, we commend the effort that have been made by the Delta state government. So far, they have demonstrated that they can actually do more than the federal government. They have paid the medical residency training fund for this year. They have also implemented the Medical Residency Training Act in full. Benue State have also implemented the Medical Residency Training Act. However, they have not started paying the Medical Residency Training Fund. They largely predicated it on the ongoing strike that we embarked upon. Now that we have resumed, we'll also monitor to see that they implement it to our members in Benue. Since the Minister of Labor and Employment have committed himself to be a conciliator between us and these state governments, we also want him to keep to his promise. The issue of payment of salaries to some of our members in Abia, for instance, the 21-month salaries have still not been paid to them. The 8-month salaries of Imo State doctors have still not been paid to them. Likewise, Ondo and Ikiti have not paid their 3 months respectively salary arrears to our members. So these are issues that are still hanging, that we want to use the grace of these 6 weeks that we are given to push it and see that they are paid.
Do you want all of this to be addressed in 6 weeks, or is it to what extent? What exactly are you looking for? Because those who will think, oh, wait a minute, they're not sure they can completely attend to all of these matters in 6 weeks. And if that doesn't happen, what will the NARD do? I know that you may say you may need to go back to your NOC.
Well, just as I said earlier, if this thing I've said is anything to go by, then you will believe with me that we are always not strike mongers. We always want to give the government officials ample time to see that they have started doing what they ought to be doing. It's when that failed that we resort to strike actions. We have this belief that since there's a new posture, the government have adopted this new posture, that they are going to follow through and implement these things. Because it may not be that they will implement it completely, but we want to start seeing that some things are happening within the next 6 weeks. For instance, the salary arrears of 21 months in Abia, for instance, if we can see that some months have been paid and the government is committed to paying the remaining arrears, of course that will give us confidence. And we want to listen and wait for a longer period of time. But in the situation whereby nothing is being done and our members are languishing in penury, is what usually make us to take the ultimate action, which is strike, in order to force some of these things to be done.
Well, the 6-week moratorium, so to speak, that's been announced by the NARD, Dr. Godia, is that for the federal government alone, or it includes states as well? Just to be clear, because you've listed a number of states that have not met certain recommendations, certain demands, certain expectations. For instance, you mentioned Abia State, now you've mentioned a number of states that have done some things to an extent, and a good number of states clearly haven't really gone as far. So are you also in talks with the states different from the conversation you are having with the federal government? Or is it just one same whole?
Well, our members cut across both the state and the federal tertiary institutions. And if we are going on strike action, we don't go on strike because of issues pertaining an individual. We look at it collectively and take collective decision, just as we have done in suspending this strike for the next 6 weeks. These issues that I enumerated, actually it cut across the federal and the state government. And this grace that we are giving is also to cut across this state and federal government as well. However, I want to state here for a record that since we have this agreement and we have been trying to see how this state government can pay their salary, and we believe that if we segregate those items and pursue them individually, the strike may prolong, maybe prolong more than it's supposed to be. So with the promise or with the commitment shown by the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment that he was going to conciliate between us and those state government to see that they have effected those payments, we felt it would be good if we give him that opportunity to come in between and help in sorting out those issues.
You know, Honorable Sonono, I mean, first of all, it's hard to actually wrap one's head around how is it that people will have unpaid, allowances and salaries for 21 months, almost 2 years, and it's really difficult to process some of these things. But we always talk about federal system, the federal doing their thing, not encroaching upon the state's territory. What is the thinking in this regard, ensuring that they prevail on states, to uphold their own end of the bargain, such that it doesn't impede on ensuring that this strike action doesn't continue?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very, very good point that through your question, made it clear. We must understand that in the tier of system of governance we have in Nigeria, it makes it very difficult. And most of these are constitutional prohibitions. But nevertheless, the National Assembly is also not letting it out of this. The executive governor of Kebbi State, even at the middle of the strike, I paid him a visit, and he has also called severally to understand what is really happening, because it's going to be addressed during the Nigerian Governors Forum meeting. And luckily, they have begun through him. They have initiated a discussion on how to address the issues as far as the state is concerned. Well, it becomes a very difficult issue for us to go down and legislate for the state. Definitely it's not possible. But what we do, Mr. Speaker is on his own personal capacity too, is reaching out to the state speakers of House of State Assemblies to liaise with them. And I have also spoken separately with some Chairman House Committee of Health of various states, so that we can see how they can also put their own effort to ensure and convince the respective state government to please act fast, so as to ensure that the fragile health system we have now is not completely grounded. because we have to know that the responsibility of paying state workers lies with state. Lies with state. And therefore, it's their own responsibility as far as the Constitution is concerned. And that's why you have federation account that give allocation to every state. But nevertheless, as a nation, definitely we have to look at it holistically. What is good for Sokoto is also good for Abia, is also good for Kano. What is there needed is universal access to health care. So each and every state must be responsible. And then I will also have to call on the respective political stakeholders in every state, and also the not only political stakeholders, generally stakeholders. It could be the obas, the emirs, and co. To please help. These are workers with family and responsibility to educate their children, and also their own personal responsibility. As far as they have presented themselves and they have worked for it, we should all rise to the occasion to demand for them to be paid. So the voices should not only come from only these assemblies and other art. We should have a national approach towards it so that we can assist ourselves by ensuring that every responsible person did his own part of this. But I must say that also that the Director General of Nigerian Governors Forum, through their medical advisor, special advisor on health, Dr. Taj, I can't remember his name really. We have been trying to see how we can also liaise with them so that this thing can be taken serious, so that we can address the issue. Because as far as we are concerned, definitely, seeing a patient in a situation whereby you have not been paid for 21 months, and you are expected to deliver your own best, it becomes difficult. And let me also remind us, I was a party when we went to Chicago for World Medical Association to review the Hippocratic Oath, which we now call physician oath. We realized that the oath has put a lot of body, that the physicians were forced to take care even at the detriment of their health. So, and now the oath, a clause was introduced to it that I should be able to take care of myself before I can take care of others. And this has put the burden on the government to ensure that physicians are paid so that they can take care of the society. And this is where we should go. Take care of your physicians, and they will take care of the people, so as everybody will have access to health.
Well, Honorable...
Largely, where we are now, we have to take these measures, because you had just mentioned some few about. I was shocked. Some few days ago, I was at oversight at the Nigeria Nurse and Midwifery Council of Nigeria. I was alarmed that over 17,000 nurses left this country in 17 months. Barely 1,000 every month. These are specialists. Their services delivery is lost. And worst part of it, these are the experienced people that are training our younger one. So the next consequences may not even be present. It will be in the next 10 years. When we have specialists, or when we have doctors who are working, or healthcare workers who are poorly trained and manning our hospitals. So even to save our training, not only service delivery, so that in the near future we can have a strong medical team and talented healthcare service delivers in the country, we must act fast. And everybody must be responsible. And I still want to reiterate, the call of the Mr. President is not only limited to the state, to the federal level. State must also domesticate it. To please promise, they are going back to work, address issues and pay them.
Okay.
If you think that there are reasons for you not to pay them, don't generalize. Take the individual that offended the system and deal with them separately, but pay the workers that have worked. And I am sure that Nigerian Governors Forum, being a responsible organization of highly talented people who have aspired, asked for, and God gave them the leadership to lead, will definitely think and they will address the issue as fast as possible.
Honorable, there's something that you have said in all of the conversations so far. Just 1 second there, Honorable Sununu. So in all that you have said, I mean, the federal government has made a commitment and advised that states should do the same. You remember that there was a point when this government, the federal government, came into power, and they had to bail out states to pay salaries. Now, a number of these states have already declared that they are financially hamstrung. Is there any chance that the federal government might want to bail out states again to pay their health workers within the 6 weeks moratorium that's been given?
You see, because I'm not in the executive arm of government and I've not received any supplementary budget that will address that, I cannot mention. But
do you see it as something that is likely to happen? Do you see it as something that is likely to happen, Honorable?
Yes, definitely. If I can't really say that I've seen that happen because I have to work on fact. Everybody, those that work close to me, I don't work on prediction. I work on what is reality. If I committed that to the government, I don't have that locus standi to commit the government on giving that. But I can I can say it as a plea that even if it is a soft loan to address the issue of the 21-month and other states that have not addressed the issue, that federal government should be able to do that and rescue this so that they can be gradually getting it back for the distance. But I cannot say it should be a grant because other states that have already paid their own staff will also demand, okay, if you are giving grant, whatever you do for the others, you also give it to us. So I cannot say a grant for that. But I can say give them a loan so that they can be able to pay, and then the federal government will devise a means of regaining back the loan over time.
Okay, Dr. Godia.
That's this thing. But for me to commit the federal government that will do that, it's not.
All right, we'll get that point. But Dr. Godia, so, I mean, doctors finish their program and then move on. So the case of Abia State, for instance, what is the thought here? If those doctors finish their program and move on, are they still expected to be paid? Because there are several who have left the country who were not paid.
Well, actually, that is what usually gave us this feeling of urgency to push the government to do things at the time that they are supposed to do it. And I think people need to understand the psychology, just like you have rightly put it. Someone is into a program that is time-bound, and his entitlement are being withheld. What he will be thinking is that I have so time left with this government. If I don't get what I'm supposed to get, then it means that I will be forfeiting it, or it will be forever before I get it. Just like the 2014, 2015, and 2016 arrears, some of those residents that were supposed to have benefited from it have largely moved to another level, cadre of in the health system. So, but they still owe the government that, rather the government still owe them the money that they've worked for in those periods. So for the Abia State government, there's this also fear that the residents are expressing there, that if we did not get this thing at this particular point in time, then it means before the government will start addressing those issues, we must have finished our program and move on to a particular, or to move on into, to a particular cadre in the health sector. So these are actually the aggregate issues that usually put a lot of pressure on us, a lot of pressure on our members, and throw them psychologically imbalanced. So it's actually behove of all and sundry not to be looking at only when we are on strike, but to be looking at these issues the way they are coming up, so that we can all put our hands together and address them. This issue, we have brought it for a very long time. It was at a point, it was 18 months. The months keep on piling, and now it's 21 months. So what else do you expect the Nigerian resident doctors to do when they have been working and they have not been paid? So that are some of the reasons that we usually have to resort back, or most times have to resort back into indulging in strike action in order to force the government to act at within short time. We realize that most of the times, if we are not on industrial action, those issues that have been raised and we have been raising, nobody usually considered it again. As soon as we go back to work, everybody goes to sleep, and then those issues are left there lingering, while our members continue to suffer in silence. So those are the issues that we are calling on all well-meaning Nigerians to look into those issues and always be seen to be pushing those government as soon as we bring those issues to the fore, so that we can together salvage the health sector and continue to move in the right direction as a country.
We need to wrap it up at this point, and some of the areas that you...
Before you wrap,
all right.
just early the fears.
Okay, quickly, please.
Of the president. Yes, even as a House of Rep member, when arrears was paid, for the years I have served at Federal Medical Center, Binikebi, I benefited from that arrears. Government is not done in abstracts. We have records. Those who served during a particular period. It's a timeline. You have served between January to December of 2017 and you are not paid. Now the record will justify who will benefit from that. I was not in the Federal Medical Center. I've gotten mine. So the only thing is, what we should work hard is not fear that people are going to know. Let's work to ensure that payment is restored. Wherever you are, the record will ensure that you are distant. And so I think the best thing is for us to really work to ensure that we have got to a level that payment will be done. And I assure you, whoever have served, definitely going by the record, will be paid. Because those that are paying me now are not even the one that documented my stay in service during that period. But the records were there. I've served Federal Medical Center Binikebi during so period, and arrears is going to pay for that period. And I benefited from that.
All right,
so what is there is for us to pray that we have a country one day that nobody will work without being paid. A laborer must be paid before the sweat of his body dry up. And
because tomorrow,
we'll reach there.
There may not be a chairman House Committee on Health Services who is as passionate as you are and in that field, or a president who will say, don't worry, I'll pay you the arrears that even preceded my administration tomorrow. So that's why we need to get these things sorted. And perhaps those officials in government who act the way they do, which got us to where we are in the first place, there has to be a rethink in terms of their mindset. So that speaks to leadership, which got us where we are. But gentlemen, we need to thank both of you for coming on. Honorable Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Chairman House Committee on Health Services, as well as Dr. Ishaya Godia, President of NARD. All the best to you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, we're back in a moment. Don't go away.